Hey everybody, my name's Aaron Wolf. I'm the technical sales manager for James Hardie Building Products in the greater Detroit Metro. My job with James Hardie is to work with our install partners on not only the business side of things, but also proper installation technique, tips and tricks on the job, and just how to overall run a more efficient business. What I'll go over today is just a couple of the main points as far as one, flashings and clearances so that we're meeting codes when installing our James Hardie products, and also touching up our pre-finished products, which is either the Statement or the Dream Collection. Our pre-finished boards come with a 15-year warranty. You just want to make sure they're sealed up nice and tight before you move on to the next part of the job. So having said that, we'll just get started with a little bit of the clearances and flashing requirements. There's really three numbers you need to watch out for when it comes to doing a James Hardie install. That's 6 inches, 2 inches, and 1/4 of an inch. So when you got those down, pretty much everything else is smooth sailing. So what we'll do, starting at the bottom of the house, which is grade, what you'll notice, a lot of these actually just come from building code requirements. They don't have nothing to do with Hardie specifically, but they do work for our application. So when it comes to grade clearance, that's where that first number comes in, 6 inches off grade. If you install your sidings and trim 6 inches off grade, it covers universally all of our products, as do all of these clearance and flashing requirements, and then you'll be good to go. When we talk about the 2-inch minimum as far as clearances, you also want to have any slabs, paths, or steps, as well as roof lines or decks, 2 inches up from that with your siding or your trim. That's to prevent a lot of snow and moisture from running into the product and causing it to fail prematurely. Next, we'll talk about Z flashings, any kind of horizontal seam. That's where that third number comes into play, 1/4 inch. So whether you have a belt board running across a window, a door, a band board running across the entire house, you want to have a 1/4 inch clearance from the siding and the flashing right on top of that piece, which will be Z flashing. And that Z flashing will cover your trim, make sure it works perfect. Moving along, you'll see again, a lot of these apply in the same cases. Here's horizontal flashing above windows, horizontal flashing with brick or stone. One main component to that is that you never want to have any cementitious product, or what Hardie is, interact with any kind of brick or mortar. So you want to keep clearances there and use flashings appropriately, such as an L flashing on verticals or a Z flashing on horizontals. Moving right along to blockouts, same thing applies. You want to block out anything on the house, whether it's a light block or a hose, and you want to make sure that that's flashed over the top with that 1/4 inch clearance. Something that's not necessarily a clearance requirement, but it is a flashing requirement, would be butt joint flashings. Whenever you put two pieces of Hardie together, they form a butt joint. First and foremost, those butt joints can be run together in contact because James Hardie products will not expand and contract due to the weather outside. It's very helpful in a climate like Michigan. So what you do have to do is put a joint flashing in between those two pieces just to protect it from wind-driven rain and any condensation that's flowing away from the wall caused by the heat and cold. Moving right along, again, we already talked about roofs. Kick-out flashing is something that's also required by building code, usually the responsibility of a roofer. But if you end up having to do it, it's important to put a flashing card at any roof wall intersection that will kick the water away from the gutter, or into the gutter, excuse me. Also, the gutter placement. If you end up having another trade coming after you, if you are a siding contractor, you're not necessarily doing the gutters, you want to make sure that they know to leave the gutter 1 inch off of that siding. Also, before the roof goes on, they need to put a drip edge as well as valley flashing. That's particularly important if you do use any of our trim as fascia boards. So on the back of our handy little flyer here, it also talks about finishing James Hardie products. So one important note about any James Hardie product is when you do cut into it, that cut end has to be sealed. Sealing happens one of two ways. The first is with paint, which we'll discuss in a minute, and the second is caulking. So caulking occurs at any vertical termination of the trim and the siding. So as you can see right here, there's a nice bead of caulking that runs up and down this vertical. These are the main areas in which you will end up caulking James Hardie products. On vertical seams like this, underneath windows and any kind of penetration, as well as up in any gables up on at the peak of the house. Where you will never caulk is up at the top of it, where you're going to have any of your horizontal Z flashings and your siding coming down and staying a 1/4 inch off. You don't want to create a dam for that moisture that's trying to escape. You want that to flow freely. So again, you never caulk up at the top. You start up at the top piece of your corner trim, put a little caulk dam in there, and then you follow an 1/8 of an inch gap in between your siding and your trim all the way down. And that's how you finish James Hardie, sealing it with caulking. All right, and the second way you can seal a piece of James Hardie is with paint. So what will come out with every ColorPlus job, which is our pre-finished material, is a Hardie touch-up kit. It'll match the exact paint of both your trim and your siding. And typically about one kit each per house gets you where you need to be. So the kit comes with a number of different things. It'll be labeled with the proper color for you. In this case, it's evening blue. And you can see all the order numbers and all that stuff on there for when you order it. It'll come with, first, a full pint of paint. So this, again, will be touching up any areas that are cut that will not be caulked. The most common areas you're going to see that are going to be pieces of window trim or corner trim, as well as notch outs of siding around windows and doors, where you have to cut and make specific angles for that piece. Also, siding running up a roof line, since it's 2 inches off of that roof, you'll also need to seal that bottom edge, and that's where this will come in handy. So after you pour out your paint, it goes into a couple of different applicators. The first is an edge coater. The edge coater is meant for cut pieces of Hardie, like this piece of trim I have right here. You literally just put your paint right in there and then daub it all along the side here, and that seals it up perfect. This will also be useful for your notch outs around your windows and doors. You don't want to use this on finished nail heads. Unfortunately, it can create almost like a leper spotted effect. So if you do have to face nail, we have a specific applicator for that as well. Now this is something that might show up in your touch-up kit. It's actually our old touch-up for finish head applicator. And what I usually tell people to do with this one is just to put it together just like so, and then throw it away. Okay, a lot of complaints about that thing. What we did is we took your feedback. We actually created a pin nail applicator. Number one, it has a ball bearing inside, so you can really get that paint going. And then the tip depresses every time you put it onto a nail head. So like we can see here in our piece of trim, you just push this over. This will be filled with paint, obviously. A small amount of paint will come up and you've touched up your nail heads without having that kind of leper spotted effect on the house. This is very useful. You just have to keep this tip clean and it'll last you a couple houses. Of course, the touch-up kit also comes with a couple extras for you. So a couple extra pads for the touch-up. And then this is a spout that you can cut off so you can pour your paint out nice and easy without spilling everywhere. And of course, a lid to cover up your applicator so that those don't get too dried out on you. And also, you don't get paint all over yourself. So again, the Hardie touch-up applicator, this will come out with any pre-finished ColorPlus job so you can finish the house beautifully and move on to the next. And if you have any questions or want to order any of these products, reach out to your sales associate at Northville Lumber. They'll be happy to help you out. Thanks for your time.